Hello, and welcome to the Knitting with Cat Hair podcast. My name is Nikki. I'm also known as Knitting with Cat Hair on Instagram and Cat Hair Knitting on Ravelry. I'm coming to you from Sudbury, Ontario, Canada, where I live with my partner, our 2 daughters, and our 5 cats. And this is primarily a knitting podcast. However, I do talk about some of the other things I'm getting into, such as cross-stitch, crochet, and some of the books I'm reading. So big warm welcome to all new viewers as well as returning viewers. I just want to thank you right up front for taking time out of your day to spend with me. Yeah, so I hope everyone is doing well. Our province is moving into, or has moved into, just shy of 100% complete lockdown again. So yeah, that's fun. Kids are still at home learning from home, so schools are not open, but they're still continuing their studies. I'm still working from home, and we're just laying low, pretty much. That's the extent of it. So turning my attention to our knitting chat. Yeah, so we still have the Around the World Make Along 2021 running in the Knitting with Cat Hair podcast group on Ravelry. This is a year-long knit along, but it's been divided up into trimesters. So the first trimester ends at the end of April, so it's coming up, and the prompt was to use a yarn or make a design from a designer from your own country. So yeah, there's been lots of gorgeous finished objects already, and I like to put a little slideshow in at the end just to showcase some of the works in progress and the finished objects that have been posted in the Ravelry group. So just a reminder to those who are participating, in order to be eligible for prizes, you do need to post your finished object photo in the finished objects thread on Ravelry. So don't forget. And since we're nearing the end of this trimester, I thought it'd be great to announce the location for the next trimester. So I'm keeping it really broad here, hoping that will accommodate a lot of participants. So we're going to move on over to the Eastern Hemisphere. So you just have to knit a pattern or use a yarn from somewhere in the Eastern Hemisphere. And I might as well announce the last trimester's location will be the Western Hemisphere, so you can start planning for those too. So just a reminder, the Eastern Hemisphere knit along will begin May 1st and run for 4 months. Okay, so I think that's it for admin stuff. And I'll start with what I'm wearing. I'm wearing my Weekender, which I've worn numerous times on the podcast. And I'm also wearing my Woodlark shawl, which, of course, in true Nikki style, has not been wash blocked. And the ends have not even been woven in. But I felt like wearing it. I was going to try and record outside today. It's pretty gloomy out, and it's still quite chilly here. I think it's just above 0 in Sudbury here. So I was all bundled up and ready to go, and then my neighbors were making lots of noise. So I decided to move on indoors, so I'm still wearing my shawl. Yeah, joys of living in the city. All right, so let's move on into, I have no finished objects. So we'll move right into works in progress. I'll start with my Soiree. So I'm knitting the Soiree sweater, which is a pattern by Emily Foden out of the Knits About Winter book. Let's see if I can show you a quick picture of what it looks like when it's finished. It's an oversized boxy sweater knit from the bottom up. And so you knit the bottom up in the round, and then you separate for the front and back, and you knit those flat. And then you pick up along the armpit, I guess, for the sleeves, and then just knit down. And then I did look into the directions further along, and you do actually pick up for the collar and do some stitching on the collar as well. So it's not just left how is, because it did look a little sloppy in my opinion. So I'm kind of glad to read that. Yeah, so that is housed in this beautiful bag by naturally hand dyed by Natural You, which is a local natural hand dyer here in Ontario. So I did manage to get one of the sleeves done. All right. So I finished the first sleeve. And I've picked up I just started the second sleeve. So this is the second time I've knit this sleeve. I never seem to get things on the first try. Usually it takes me about 3 tries. This one only took 2, so that's good, but I don't know. So I did follow the instructions, and it has you, you know, you pick up, like I said, around the armpit, and then you start decreasing, but it had you decrease pretty rapidly. So I think it was, at first it was every 3rd round, and then it was every 4th round. And I did do that. I literally finished the whole sleeve and then tried it on and was like, ooh, this is a little snug. Like I could wear it, but it was quite tight. So I decided to rip back, and after the initial decreases every 3rd round, I just started decreasing every 6 rounds instead of every 4. And that turned out way nicer. So it's still, like there's not a ton of positive ease on the sleeves, but it's very comfortable. It was not comfortable before. It was like skin tight. It just didn't feel right. Especially in a boxy sweater, right? You would think that the sleeves would be looser. So I was talking to my mom about this as well. And you'll notice that there's this beautiful honeycomb pattern that goes up all the way, actually it goes all the way down, but it goes underneath the arms. And my mom had done something similar on a sweater she had recently made. I forget the name of it. Anyways, it had a similar stitching on it. And she said after she washed and blocked it, it really stretched out. So it might actually make the sleeves a little baggier. We'll have to see. But yeah, I love it. It's beautiful. It's got this gorgeous cabling down the sides, both sides, and then the honeycomb underneath the arms. And the rest is just stockinette. It's got a rolled hem at the bottom. Like I said, you pick up a few stitches, or you pick up the stitches around the neckline, and then I think it ends up being kind of like a rolled hem anyways, but yeah, rolled collar. And I am knitting this up out of Lichen and Lace yarn. I'm using their sock yarn, which is an 80-20, so 80% merino, 20% nylon, and I'm holding that together with one strand of their Marsh mohair, which is 70, I think it's 75% mohair, 25% silk, something like that. So yeah, it's knitting up really, really lovely. It's got this beautiful little fuzzy, I don't know if you can see, a little bit of fuzzy halo on it. It's super, super soft. And I just love the colorway, which is called Beach Glass. And it does remind me, it's looking a little more blue perhaps on screen. It's more greeny blue, like sea glass, like you would find along a beach. It's gorgeous and I love it. So yeah, so did I mention I'm knitting this up? This is being knit up as part of our knit along. So I just have the last sleeve to go, and pick up for the collar and do a couple rounds. So I'm quite sure I'll have this done in time for the end of this trimester. So Lichen and Lace yarn is Canadian, and Emily Foden, the designer, is also Canadian. So double Canadian there. Yeah, so I'm enjoying that. So next time I show it, it should be done. I don't know that I'll be wearing it. Might be too cold or too warm out, but I will have it done. Okay, moving on to my next work in progress, housed in this adorable little fox bag by My Needlecrafts, which is a Canadian shop on Etsy. I should say anything that I mention, I will put links down below in the down bar if you're interested. So I am knitting the Telja, which is a pattern by Jennifer Steingass. It's a colorwork sweater. Knit from bottom up. So you do the sleeves first, which is kind of cool because then you're not stuck on or trapped on Sleeve Island. So this is one sleeve. You can see there's some lovely color work at the bottom here. It's got a little rolled sleeve cuff. So I finished both sleeves. I knit them 2 at a time, which was my first time doing that, but I had learned how to do 2 at a time sock knitting last year. So I figured, makes sense, right? It's pretty straightforward. So I've got both my sleeves done. When I was knitting them 2 at a time, I will say that I did do the cuffs separately and the color work, just because of tension gauge concerns. So I put them on the same needle only after I was done all the color work. So yeah, those are done. And now I've started the body. I'm going to try and show you. It is rolling up pretty crazily here. Oh, and I'm dropping stitches. Let me just grab those quickly before I... I really need to invest in those needle stoppers or stitch stoppers, the things you put on the ends of your needles so that your stitches don't fall off. Yes. So I've only got this much of the body done so far. So it's basically the exact same pattern as on the sleeves. So it's got this rolled hem again, and then the color work. And I'll mention here, I'm using Lettlopi, Istex Lettlopi yarns in 4 different colors. So this main color is called Straw. The rust color is called Rust Heather. Inside the color work, oh, right here you can see there's like a yellowy green that's called Golden Heather. And then this green at the end is called Celery Heather. So yeah, I love the way it's knitting up. So I will say, as I mentioned, it takes me a few tries sometimes to get things right, because I find I second guess myself a lot too. When I started knitting larger like garments, I would follow patterns blindly and just trust that it's going to work out. And that didn't always work to my advantage. So now I find I've gone the opposite way, where I'm doubting everything. So I cast on, so I'm making, I should say, I'm making the size G. I think it's to accommodate, wait, the finished measurements are 49.5 inch bust circumference. I have a 45-inch bust, so that gives me about approximately 4.5 inches, I think, of positive ease. So size G. So I did the sleeves for the size G, and then I cast on for the body. So this rolled hem, I cast on 248 stitches that it recommends for the size. And as I was knitting it, I just started feeling like it looked giant. So I kept it on the needles, and all I did was I finished the green part and then I measured it. And it was like something like 66 inches or some crazy huge number. And it was supposed to be, when I looked at the schematic, it was only supposed to be 49, I think it was 49 or 48. Anyways, it was way bigger than it seemed like it should have been. So I ripped it out, and then I did some math to recalculate what size I should be making for the body. And I went down 3 sizes to the size D, cast on, I think it was 200 stitches, and got past the green part and started doing the ribbing. And once I started doing the ribbing, I noticed how it pulls everything in. Like ribbing does, right? It also stretches, but yeah, it was pulling it in. And so when I measured it, I was like, this is way too small now. It was way too small. I can't remember what the measurement was, but it was like way smaller than what I calculated it should be. So I ripped it out again and cast on, went back to the original size, cast on the 248 stitches, knit through the ribbing, and determined that it was exactly the right size. So in this case, I should have trusted the pattern. Yeah, and I should have known, because I did measure my sleeves, because I thought, what's going on here? Is my gauge off? What's happening? Because I did do a gauge swatch. I was a good girl this time. I measured my sleeves and the gauge was perfect. The size was exactly what the schematic said they should be. Everything was perfect, so I really should have trusted it. But anyways, in this case, third time's a charm. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. This is my first time knitting with Lettlopi, as I've mentioned. It's a very rustic yarn, but I do very much enjoy it. I think it's going to be so warm in the winters. We do get very cold temperatures here in Sudbury. I mean, by very cold, like, you know, we've been known to have minus 30, 40 with wind chills. So this will keep me rather toasty for next winter. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. The only thing is, and I mentioned this on a previous podcast episode, is that my yarn was kindly gifted to me by my mom. They, well, all the contrast colors were, as they were leftovers from a sweater she had made called the Jord. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's a beautiful Lettlopi colorwork sweater. So she gave me all of her leftovers, and I think I'm not going to have enough of the rust heather. I just don't feel like I'm going to have enough. So I went online to yarncanada.ca, who, by the way, sells Lettlopi yarn if you're looking for it. They also have Plutolopi, or Plotolopi. Yeah, because I know some people have been having a hard time finding it. But in Canada, it is available, although the rust heather is out of stock. So I have to wait for that to come back in stock and probably order another skein. I don't think I need tons of it. I just want to have that one skein for backup. But then I'm thinking the dye lots are going to be completely different because my mom started knitting that sweater that she gave me the leftovers from 30 years ago. So what are the chances they're going to be the same? So I'm going to have to order a couple skeins and just hold off. Anyways, I have a ways to go. I got to knit through the body anyways before I get to the color work at the yoke. Okay. Moving on, I did cast on something new. I literally just cast it on though, so there's not a ton to show, but I'll show you what it is. So it's a pair of socks. I'm using a pattern out of my 52 Weeks of Socks book. And this is actually the first pattern I'm knitting out of this book. And it is called Candle Flame. And this is the sock. Got this really pretty little, I don't know what you would call that. It's almost like a half cable or something. Yeah, or twisted stitches or something. Anyways, I just cast on, so I haven't got that far yet. And this is a pattern by Mona Schmidt. So, the project is housed in this adorable little bee bag. Also by My Needle Crafts. And this bag is made for 2 at a time sock knitting, which is perfect because I'm going to be knitting these 2 at a time. Oh. So I've just cast on and done the ribbing. You can't, there's really nothing to see here, but that's all I have. So I've got, I think it's Earth Tone Girl who mentions, so I watched her video on 2 at a time sock knitting, and she mentioned that it's always easier to start socks separately before knitting them 2 at a time, just because of the ribbing. It's kind of, I guess your tension can change and you're going to get more ladders or whatever. Anyways, she suggested doing that, so I always do that. So I have them on 2 separate needles here, and I'm about to put them on the same because I'm done the ribbing part. And this yarn, do I have the label? I do. Is by Sweet Skein o' Mine. She's a Canadian hand dyer on the East Coast. Oh, Fredericton, New Brunswick. So yeah, I'm using her BFL High Twist, which is an 80% superwash merino, 20% BFL. Oh, sorry. 80% superwash BFL, 20% nylon. And there's 400 yards per 100 gram. And it's a 2-ply, and it is certainly a high twist. It said that right? Yes, BFL High Twist. It is. So I had some difficulties winding this yarn. Did not want to cooperate. I don't know if you guys have ever wound BFL. I don't know what it is about the BFL, but I've had issues every single time I've tried to wind it. It just ends up so messy on my winder, and it like, it tangles on itself. It's just, I don't know what it is. Anyways, yeah, so that's what I'm knitting it out of. And this is Cake. It's kind of this gorgeous, peachy, very pale, peachy, pinky color. And I think the colorway is called Blush. I'll just, whoops, double check that. Yeah, Blush. So, just started that, but I always have to have socks on my needles. It's nice to have a small project you can kind of carry around with you. Not that I'm going anywhere, but you know, if I did. All right, so that's my new cast on. And then finally, I dug out a hibernating whip. This is housed in this beautiful bag that my mom brought me back from Ecuador. And it's perfect for sweaters because it's big. And this is not a sweater per se. So now that, you know, we're starting to get into spring and warmer weather's around the corner, I thought it was a good time to pull out some of my warm weather knits. Actually, I only have one. This is the only one that I have that's actually been hibernating. And this is called, okay, I don't have the photo, but it's the Threadbare top. It's by We Are Knitters. I'll pop a picture in so you can see what the finished shirt looks like. It's really cute. So last year I had finished, it's knit in 2 panels and then you stitch them together. Last year I had finished the first panel. Is that I don't even know what's the front and what's the back here. Okay, there. So it's just a mixture of, so there's some ribbing at the bottom, there's some drop stitches, there's some garter ridges. It's quite a simple knit. I would say other than the seaming part that might be a little tricky for beginners, I think this is probably a beginner's knit. And I'm knitting it up out of We Are Knitters 100% Pima cotton. And unfortunately, I don't have any labels to show you, but here it is in the skein or in a ball. The colorway I think is called Sand for this. It's beautiful little beige color. Okay, so those of you who follow me on Instagram may have seen a lovely picture of the tangled mess of yarn that I ended up with. I'll pop a picture in for those who weren't following me on Instagram and haven't seen the picture. So what happened is I had a bit of a catastrophe, and my skeins of yarn and bag, yeah, got messy, let's say. So I needed to wash everything. And I don't know what I was thinking. Anyways, learn from my mistake. You guys probably wouldn't even make this mistake because it's really silly. But I had all the skeins in the bag. They were all wound up. All I did was take the labels off. I just left them wound. Threw it in the washing machine thinking it's in the bag. They'll be fine. I think I may have even put them in the dryer. Needless to say, I can't remember because I did this last year and forgot about it. I went to go start this project and looked in the bag and saw this big, huge tangled mess. And I was like, oh yeah, that's why this is hibernating. So anyways, yeah, all of the skeins unwound, all of them tangled with each other. And it was just a big disaster. So yeah, I did want to pick this back up. I want to finish it for summer. So sat down on the couch, put on some podcasts, and instead of knitting, I untangled yarn for about 5 hours. Yeah, probably about 5 hours. You know what, though, I have to say it really wasn't, I've untangled yarn where it's frustrating and I'm swearing every few minutes and I'm just cursing it. And I did not have the same experience with this yarn. And I think it's because I don't know, maybe because I was preoccupied, but it also, although it was all tangled up, it wasn't, it untangled quite easily. So I don't know how to explain it. I guess because it's not wool, it didn't stick to itself. So it was easy to kind of pull it apart, and it really wasn't that bad. It was almost cathartic. Like I just sat there and chilled out and did it. And I don't think there was a single curse word. So yeah, so now I've re-skeined every ball. It was only 3 balls, but it seemed like a heck of a lot more yarn. So yeah, I'm ready to cast on for the next section. I'll be doing that shortly. So I think that's it for all the knitting. In terms of acquisitions, I did have a few. I had placed an order with Small Bird Wokshop. Wow, over a month ago now, and I was waiting for my yarn to come. She was, sorry for the crinkling, just give me a sec, I'll get everything out. There. Yeah, she was selling some unique blends of yarn that I've never heard of and thought it would be cool to try, and they were going fast, and they're more like a summer yarn. So I ended up picking up 4 skeins of this beautiful pink kind of heathery yarn. So again, it's Small Bird Wokshop, a Canadian hand dyer here. I think she's on the West Coast in British Columbia. Doesn't say. Anyways, these are, yeah, they're mill end, milled and dyed in Italy. So it's a combination of 45% cotton, 28% linen, 12% nettle, and 15% silk. And it says it's a fingering weight yarn. There's 415 yards. I would say that's verging on lace, maybe a light fingering. It's pretty thin. Yeah, so I got 4 skeins of this. And then I got 2 skeins of this gorgeous mohair. It's like a gray, and it's got this kind of darker pink in it. And I thought it might look really lovely with this. And this is Hummingbird lace weight, 72% Super Kid mohair, 28% silk, 455 yards per 50 grams. Single ply non-superwash. Colorway is Cinder. Yeah, so I was thinking of doing I think I talked about this before, that I've finished a summer ranunculus and I want to do one for every season. So I was thinking of doing a spring ranunculus out of this. So pairing these 2 together. Or the other option is to just forego the mohair and just do 2 strands of this together maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of undecided. But regardless, I bought 4 skeins, but 2 of them are going in the giveaway. So this is going to be the first prize for the Around the World Make-Along. Yeah, so I thought they'd be nice because we're moving into spring, summer, and so perhaps you might want to knit with these for a summer project. All right, so that is pretty much it for acquisitions. Oh, I did get some stitch markers as well from Firefly Notes, also Canadian. Found them on Etsy. Actually, they were highlighted on Instagram by a girl I follow, Selenium. Yeah, so she kind of directed me to them. So yeah, I got pine cones and mushrooms, and they're super cute. I put them, oh, I'll show you what the progress keepers look like. So it comes with, I think, 6 or 8 stitch markers and then a progress keeper. So this is the mushroom. Hopefully you can see that little red mushroom. And the pine cone. This is the little pine cone. So cute. So yeah. And that's it for acquisitions. I'm trying really hard not to buy stuff, as I mentioned before. I'm trying to be intentional. If I buy something, it needs to be for something that I am actually planning on making. I can't just buy random yarn. Although it's so tempting. So tempting. But yeah. So that is that. And I think that is it for all the making talk. In terms of books, I mentioned I was going to start reading this book, Fugitive Pieces by Anne Michaels. I will say that it's no fault of the book at all. The book is very interesting and I'm very much enjoying it. I just haven't been reading as much and I'm not entirely sure why. I haven't been knitting as much either. So I'm trying to think what I'm actually doing. I think when my job gets stressful or exceptionally busy, I find it takes a mental toll on me, and especially my reading suffers for sure. So I find it really hard to focus when I'm reading, and yeah, so I just don't read as much. Knitting, I don't know, like knitting's kind of relaxing to me, but sometimes I just don't want to think at all. So I'll play video games. I think that's what's happened. I've been playing Animal Crossing. Anyways, there's a lot of people playing Animal Crossing. You get it. It's a nice break every once in a while. But yeah, I think I'm good now. The new update just came out. The spring update. I've been waiting for the turtles to come out of hibernation so I can catch a turtle. Yeah, I have a thing for turtles. But anyways, back to the book. So Fugitive Pieces by Anne Michaels. It's really good. So essentially it's about a story about, I guess it's more of like a historical fiction. So it takes place during the Second World War or right after. And it's about a Greek geologist who finds a little Polish boy during the war. His family's been unfortunately killed and he's on his own out in the woods, and this Greek geologist finds him and takes him under his wing and kind of raises him as his own. And I'm now at the part where they have moved from Greece to Canada and they're living in Toronto. And yeah, it's really lovely. Like Anne Michaels, I've never read any of her books before. Actually, this one's her debut. I looked it up. I think it was published in the 1990s, so it's not like a new book or anything, and she may even have other books since, but her writing style is just very poetic and beautiful. I really enjoy it. Yeah, so far, great book, and I highly recommend. And I also picked up my For the Love of Knitting, I think it's called, book, and I've been reading that. Sorry, I left it upstairs. I didn't bring it down, but it's cute. It's just a bunch of short stories from different well-known knitters or knitting designers about knitting, and there's lots of historical pictures throughout the book, which I find really fun to look at. It's a really fun read, and I read it you know, here and there. It's easy to pick up and put down. The short stories are quite good. Yeah, okay, so I think that's it. Other than that, yeah, I've been watching some podcasts. A podcast I wanted to mention that I recently discovered, although they've been obviously around for a while and they have quite the following, is Cabin Boy Knits. So Chris and Jamie, they're hilarious. So they're coming to you from Northern Ontario forests. Actually, I'm more northern than they are, I'm pretty sure. But anyways, they're still in Northern Ontario, what we'd consider. And yeah, they're just so funny. And I love that Jamie always kind of gives some history or some background on the different breeds that they're talking about, or different techniques, or what have you. It's really fun to watch because I always feel like I'm learning something. And Christopher is a dyer, so he hand dyes using natural dyes yarn. So he does these little YouTube videos on how to dye with natural dyes. So like using, for instance, I watched his video on using avocado. which I am totally on board for. So I've never naturally dyed. I've never dyed yarn, period. But I'm thinking that's a great one to start with, just because you don't need to mordant your yarn. I think is it the tannins in the avocado pits and skins? Anyways, for whatever reason, you don't need to use a mordant, so you can just dye straight with it. So I've been saving up all my avocado pits and skins for the last few weeks. Actually, it's longer than that now, but a month. So I'm looking forward to trying that out in the summer. And if you're interested, I'll leave a link down below to that video and you can check it out. He's also got a video on dyeing with marigolds, which I have not watched yet, although I watched their main podcast and he did talk about it and the different colors you can get using marigolds and just based on the different fibers or breeds. Oh, it's so cool. Anyways, that might be another one I might want to try as well. So yeah, that's exciting. And yeah, other than that, it's my best friend's son's birthday today. So I think we're going to do an outdoor meetup and just, yeah, have a little play date with them outside, I think perhaps by our lake. We're so blessed here in Sudbury. We have so many lakes in the area. We have hundreds of lakes in our district, which is amazing. So yeah, probably go spend some time by a lake. And what else? Oh, we're very late to the game on the dyeing for Easter eggs, so we're going to be doing that tonight. I boiled all the Easter eggs last night, and we'll be dyeing them today. And the Easter bunny comes tomorrow. And yeah, that's about it. So I will say to those of you who celebrate Easter, happy Easter, and I wish you all well, and I will see you all in 3 weeks. Bye.
Il y a si longtemps déjà, j'ai oublié comment. Tant de mots, de moments, pensés depuis longtemps. Devant ce mur